there were some officiating moments last night that they bear mention. Because the NFL knows it's got to improve the officiating function. It knows. It's one of those things that I think they just don't want to talk about, and there's no one within the NFL power structure that is willing to burn the political capital necessary to be the one who stands up and says, we got to do something. Because when you're pushing against the momentum to keep things as they are, you better be confident in your position and you better be committed to the cause, because it is not going to be easy. And the other side of it too is, so one of the conversations I had with someone from one of the teams about full-time officials, somebody at the league office has to be willing to take on the project. Oh, you got an idea? You got an idea for something? All right, you're in charge of the committee. You got to find time to do that on top of everything else you're already doing. Okay, great idea. Get to work on it. But they know, and I saw, and I'm going to write about this at PFT, there was an announcement of some partnership with the Big 12 Conference where they're going to have resources available to officials at the Big 12. Like, let's try to make these guys better on the way in. And it doesn't cost us to do it. That's the other part of it too. We're going to engage in education and training of people who could eventually be NFL officials, and the Big 12 will pay them to do it. Genius. But that's the reflection that they know that something needs to happen. They wouldn't do it. It's unprecedented. The tweet from NFL media, oh, it's unprecedented. Yeah, it's unprecedented because they know that the current status of the officiating is unprecedented. It's unprecedentedly bad. Anyway, last night, the safety that wasn't, it's good that someone fed the angle to Amazon, and I assume it came from the league's network of cameras, the Hawkeye system, because it didn't look clear and obvious that all of the ball was out of the end zone when Dak Prescott was hit near the goal line. And remember, for a touchdown, all you have to do is put any part of the ball over the front of the line. That means to avoid a safety, every bit of the ball has to get beyond the line, the outside edge, not the inside edge. The white stripe isn't good enough. The whole ball has to be out of the end zone, starting with the beginning of the white stripe. And that angle that they shared with Amazon showed, yes, the ball was out, clear and obvious. So the system worked. Technology in that setting worked, but boy, it was close. And I harp on the clear and obvious standard because at times I feel like the NFL's implicit acknowledgement that they need to get these calls right sometimes in the replay process results in the judgment of the person making the decision overriding the judgment of the officials who made the decision in real time because they want to get it right. They abandon the clear and obvious standard. Yeah, it was a mistake, but, all right, it wasn't a clear mistake, but we think that it was the wrong call. But it wasn't clear and obvious, but we're just going to change it. And I had a coach call this week, and this is one of the issues with replay review, and it gets back to the transparency when it comes to officiating. And this is a simple question. A coach said to me, who's in charge of the officials? And I stopped and thought about it. And he said, if you have to stop and think about it, that's a problem. Like, it's not Walt Anderson. He's the mouthpiece. Troy Vincent's in charge of football operations. It's probably Ramon George. Mark Butterworth is ostensibly in charge of replay. The teams still don't know who's in the room making the decisions when it's time to make these decisions. That's not good for anyone. And you look at what some of the college conferences have done. The ACC is at the leading edge of it. The spring football leagues have done it. Let's see and hear the sausage-making process. Do they fear that it'll make it worse for us to hear nonsensical ramblings during these communications? You take away that element of mystery, you're going to go a long way toward getting people to not think the fix is in. This goes back to what the commissioner said in 2012 when he hated gambling and the league hated gambling. Normal incidents of the game in a world of widespread legalized betting will spark allegations of game fixing, point shaving, etc. You got to have transparency. So the tinfoil hat crowd will say, oh, okay, I understand why they did that. That's what the video we saw last night of the safety told us. Okay, I understand why they did that. Before that, something's going on here. We see that video. Okay, now I get it. So if we were privy to these conversations, then there'd be a lot less people emailing me saying the fix is in. And I think the NFL's approach is just earmuffs, bury their head, ignore it until Congress shows up, or until somebody gets indicted, or until there's an agency created by the federal government that has jurisdiction over professional sports. Until that happens, that works. But they got to clean up their own backyard. I said this when it comes to head injuries. October 2009, they brought the commissioner and DeMaurice Smith, who was in charge of the union at the time, to Congress. And the message was simple. Clean up your mess or we'll clean it up for you. And you won't like how we clean it up. Haven't we been there? Hasn't mom said, you better clean up your room. And if you don't, I will. And it's like, uh-oh, if mom cleans up the room, then this is going to get put here and that's going to put, and I'm going to lose this. And I'll just do it. I'll just do it myself. You always want to clean up your own mess in lieu of having someone else clean it up. The odd offensive pass interference call on Jake Ferguson, and it ultimately meant nothing because the pass was incomplete and it would have been fourth down. The penalty was declined. But it looked like it was going to be defensive pass interference. That was an odd moment. And pass interference is always going to be subjective. It's not something that works for replay review. We found that out in 2019. That was the reaction to the horrible miss in the NFC Championship between the Rams and the Saints. They made replay review applicable to pass interference calls and non-calls, and it was a mess. And I almost wonder whether they deliberately made it a mess so they could go back to the old way. Like, all right, you want this? You got it. We'll show you what it's like. And they just screwed it up. That was back in the days of Al Riveron. They screwed it up. And I remember when they did the preseason seminars, and it was the result of a seminar that they had with the NFL media people. And all that stuff's supposed to be off the record, but it wasn't said in the NBC session that I can disclose, but it was said in the NFL media session that there was some fairly obscure play from a Chargers Chiefs Thursday night game where Mike Williams, like, oh, well, under this, hey, with replay review, he's going to get called for offensive pass interference. I was like, what? So I don't know. I think they could make it subject to replay review if you have people with good common sense. And this gets back to the sky judge concept, the true sky judge. Retired referees who no longer can get around on the field the way that maybe they once did, and that'll happen to all of us, in a booth at the game, wearing the uniform, member of the crew, authorized to communicate with the referee or maybe other members of the crew, to have the same kind of consultation. Like if we're going to have this consultation where they're standing around trying to recreate in their mind's eye what they saw, wouldn't it be nice to have someone involved who can see it? Like if the line judge is saying, well, you know, I saw a grab of the arm that impaired the receiver. The replay official says there's an arm grab, but it's not an impediment. That was the Texans Colts play. The controversial pass interference that happened on the play where the clock apparently ran out. There was a grab at the top of the route, but the grab didn't do anything. The receiver broke inside and fell down. The grab did not impede the receiver. So you could have somebody who sees all this stuff. If they're going to be allowed to stand around and say, what did you see? I don't know. What did you see? I don't know. What did you see? Let's have somebody who saw it. That's the solution. That's better than replay assist, because replay assist is this amorphous thing that we don't know who's making the decisions. Is it the league office? Is it the replay assistant? You need a member of the crew to be in the booth who is authorized and who can be trusted to provide accurate information to the individuals on the field. And that person gets graded accordingly. I know there's a concern. What if they go rogue? Well, if they go rogue, you kick them out of the job. If they're giving bad information, if they're not processing with their eyes what we all see at home and relaying accurate, competent information to the officials on the field, then you get somebody else. But that's the way to do it if they really care about it. It requires creativity. It requires a step back to square one. How would we come up with an officiating function today? If we had just invented football today, how would we officiate the game? Not, well, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way we've always done it is poison to any organization that strives for excellence. Hey, what about this? Nah, this is the way we've always done it. But this could be better. Yeah, this is the way we've always done it. There's a lot of that going on in the NFL. And it's not just because they don't want to spend the money. That's part of it. I think they don't want to spend the internal political capital, the time, the effort needed. And they won't do it until someone forces them to do it.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.